Hey.
Good morning to you.
Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong audio nozzle.
Oh no.
Oh, wait, that's why. This is sweet. Plug this in. There we go.
Can hear you 5x5.
Yeah, check. Up the gain on the S-band antenna. There we
There
go.
you go.
Oh, man.
I know it's all of a sudden Friday.
My Fridays end up feeling like Saturday in this kind of wonderful way. It's
That's awesome.
yeah, I usually try to make sure that office hours is the only thing that I have going on Friday. And that way it feels like, oh, okay, it's not a crazy crowded day.
Yeah, I feel like calendar hacking is um it's something I learned, and like preemptive holding. Like I have just a ton of just holds on my calendar
Yeah.
that allow me to not overwrite things. Especially, all the logistics of like dropping kids off, picking things up, and then the time after that, just to like create space so that I'm not mode shifting. Because I notice for me, if there's like two or three big mode shifts during the day, then my energy just goes down.
Sorry, what's a mode shift again?
Like if I am needing to go deep on content, like I
Okay.
need to like get in flow, and then now I need to go do something tactical, like
Yeah.
have a conversation or send email, or have to go deal with kids. Like those sort of shifts
Yeah.
really, it's a tax
I gotcha. Yeah, totally. There,
for
there's
me.
there's probably a
Um,
name for that. I don't think it's just you. I mean, there are times like especially when I'm coding where it's like uh I pop out of it and it's like it's almost like I've lost the power of language. People talk to us, wait a minute. I need to reboot. Hold on a second. What do you yeah. When I do these strings, there've been a lot of them lately. These strings of the coffee calls.
mhm.
Um, that it's there's a flow state there. It's kind of beautiful because
Yeah.
usually I schedule them for like 20 minutes, and inevitably they go like an hour, which is
Mhm.
amazing, and I love it. And you'll have like, and then oh, I got to go to the next one, like a dentist, and then
Mhm.
um after like three of them. Yeah, actually, I don't. I usually there's nothing else going on, so it's just like you get that time to kind of like slowly reflect and
Mhm.
just think back and be like, oh man, got a page of notes out of that.
Yeah.
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 Hey,
I
oh, sorry, go on.
definitely like grouping like things together, so you're sort of doing the same mental, um same mental gymnastics.
Yeah, the
I've
same kind
definitely
of
had to do that. Yeah.
same kind of you know nutrients sloshing around in your brain. Yeah, check. Hey, let's while people are still coming, do you want to talk about what we were just kind of bat some stuff around?
Yeah, about Avery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Um I so I'm a designer slash like former architect, and one of the things that I've been messing around, and it's been one of those things that we're Julie and I were just talking right now about, like I try to reserve like 15, 20, 30 minutes in the morning to do something creative just for me. And so some of these things that came out of it was this thing that I ended up starting calling Avery's Journey. And it was me like everybody else, messing around with Midjourney and ChatGPT, and I was sort of aimlessly strolling along with the robots until two things clicked. One of them is I'm fairly obsessed with street furniture, like the benches, the stoplights, the subway stuff, toll booths, all the stuff that like we interact. Because I think street furniture is an interesting part where like politics and zoning meet our bottoms often, or other parts of our bodies. So it was sort of like, oh, I started like asking the robot to think about futuristic bollards and things like that. And then I saw Julian on your Instagram making these cars, and I was like, oh, I wonder if he's using Midjourney for that, or if he's, actually just like dusting off some 3D chops for something. And so I shamelessly ripped some of that off and just started inputting different types of street furniture, and then sort of writing a backstory. And so from that came, here, I'll share a screen here, Avery's Journey, which eventually I was just like, okay, who is this person? Where are they? And of course, ChatGPT helped me name the person and some of the background. And so, this person is a young designer in the district council office, and has to redesign a traffic light for new vehicles. And in that one, there needs to be LiDAR and all sorts of things. And here are some versions of it, or like a new hydrant that needs not just water, but halon systems. And, here's a new drop box. And here's a cool old subway station that they were looking at in the history books. And so I just started posting these and sort of just like messing around. And Julian tagged me, and he was like, hey, let's talk about this. And he was like, there might be a pamphlet or a book or something here. Can you bring it to office hours and talk about it? And so that's where we are.
Bring it to office hours. Yeah, as Randy snaps his well-worn leather portfolio valise closed.
Oh yeah, here I can put a Dropbox, or here we can throw where is our chat? Here's a little, I just started. And so I think what's actually interesting, so Julian, since we talked, a friend of mine runs the University of Michigan's new program around building technology. I forget actually what
that's my friend, Brian.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna go see him at the end of the month.
So yeah, so we all know Brian. We all know, like, we're
He's
all
my
one
friend. No, he's my friend.
Okay, you take, that's great. So he actually interviewed me, and I was on last week's was it email list,
his
about
newsletter.
it. Yeah, in the newsletter. So there's something here. I don't know really what it is. From like from an archetype, I keep batting around. Is this a found diary that we grab on our 10 seconds when we go out of the time machine or come back? Or maybe it's a
I feel like it's like a municipal reference guide of some description, like LM 472-12.
Like the errors and omissions document that you can put at the back of your binder, that we either like we messed up and we need to add things in. So I think something like vaguely
it could also be a community sales pamphlet. Have you seen that new Apple show called Hello Tomorrow?
No.
So it's not great, but but there's some cool things about it in the sense of like it's traveling salespeople who are
Mm,
pitching this lunar colony for retirement, and they have these pamphlets with all the wonderful features of this lunar colony. And I just imagine this could be an interesting idea if there was a a gated community, if this was something somewhere in the world. It could be a retirement village. It could just be like,
mhm.
the city of the future, and here's the pamphlet for it, talking about like how awesome our subway stations are, and the innovations in our fire hydrants and so on. So that's another archetype that could,
Mm,
I don't know what that is, a sales pamphlet, a door-to-door salesman pamphlet.
mm. I like that. There's something like vaguely um like Epcot Center about that. I love going to Epcot, and it's like the future of tomorrow from 30 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that's right.
And I think that, yeah, the Hello Tomorrow does a good weird retro future thing. But I like the ideas that you have. They're just future. I don't think it needs to have a retro future aesthetic to it. But I like the ideas that you've come up with.
Thank you. There's something really interesting about street furniture, these little bits of urbanity that I think you can sort of tell a little story, because there was one that I did. It was sort of like a charging station for unmanned delivery robots. And it was like Avery got the conceit there for that one was Avery received a pamphlet from the Sirius um, Cyberdyne company, or whatever the company is that was on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Um, and how these really strange charging stations could be deployed throughout their district.
There could be like a handicap bench for exosuit recharging.
Mhm,
So you just sit down in your exosuit, recharge it, and then you get to continue to go. So it opens up accessibility issues.
mhm,
There's also the entire adversarial urban design, where they put metal spikes on sidewalks that they don't want roller skaters on, or they put pigeon spikes on benches they don't want homeless people to sleep on, or not pigeon spikes, but maybe like separations to make it so that it's not one long area. So there's all kinds of interesting, like, what are the future adversarial designs that might come and play.
Right, as you were saying that, it reminded me of people icing EV charging stations. Like if you have this
right.
place where you're supposed to sit in with your exosuit, how would that be iced by Luddites?
What do you mean iced? Like
Yeah, what's
literally like
iced?
spraying with water and letting it freeze?
They put internal combustion engine is what ICE stands for. They
Right.
just park their their huge trucks or whatever in front of the charging stations. Denial of service of
That's like
Mhm.
that's like the same dudes, inevitably dudes who like roll coal on you.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Okay, so icing an EV charging station is one thing, because that's a weird um, ideology thing going on. But then icing an exosuit recharging station would be the equivalent of parking in the handicap zone, where you might get a $400
Mm,
ticket for it.
I
I
see.
wonder if
All right,
it's
thanks,
the
thanks for
opposite
introducing me
of
to that term. That's a great term.
yeah. I wonder if it's like the opposite of the adversarial design where you invite like I mean I can see these guys inviting homeless people to sit on those charging stations, for example, which would be kind of like a cruel twist in all this.
It would be like the equivalent of paying a homeless person to stand in a long lineup for you so that you can get your supreme shovel.
Indeed.
That's happened here in Toronto. There a few years back, there was a condo in really really high demand, and people were coming over and paying homeless people to stand in line for them, and then they could go home for a couple of days, and then they'd come back and take their spot in line when the
oh.
doors opened.
What was the line for?
It was for condo sales. It was
Okay.
turns out it was manufactured by the real estate company to create the fake impression
Oh,
of
good.
of interest.
Good Lord.
Scandalous.
Scandalous.
So
Yeah.
was it the real estate company paying homeless people to wait in line?
No, well, the real estate company had paid actors to wait in line, and then real people were coming in and thinking, I need to get in this line. And they started coming up with these ideas of paying a homeless person to stand in the line so that they could get first dibs on the units of this brand new downtown condo.
Wait,
You know, I
that's
just
low end actor.
I just jumped in at the kind of the middle of this, but it seems like if I were to summarize, your project is to grab something from the future, like some pamphlet or something similar. Would that be kind of at a high level?
Yeah, I think at a high level, this is me combining my love and obsession with street furniture with large language models and image, text to image generators, and just playing a game with the robots to think about like what are the future pieces of street furniture. And Julian was like, hey, this could be something. This could be a near future laboratory project for the Hyper Collaborative. And so this is me just taking the
Feeling into
next
it.
tiny step.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I feel like there's definitely something here, and I think, but I don't know what it is, but which is awesome. And I think it's because in your post, you're like, you're building a world like from the ground up. And so I think that there's something remarkable about that, which is different, without any judgment, just my own kind of instinct and eye from people who, beautiful, lovely, amazing, remarkable, creative people who are playing with Midjourney just cause, and there's no story, right? So the fact that there's Avery and is yeah. So you're constructing it in the context of like Avery's diary, and so it just feels so much more, and it's not just a fetish of your robot collaborator.
Yeah, because
yeah.
before I had that hook, it was sort of just me sort of like
it just feels indulgent, which is
yeah,
fine,
messing around, which is great.
Yeah. And then it just needs more life into things, so it's not just a photo book without some kind of through line, something like that, aside from like, oh, this is a book of AI images.
Is there something to making this, instead of a pamphlet, like a small city block that's in 3D, and like making little prints of these things and putting them on a street that you can play with in a little kit that's like, the size of like a tabloid piece of paper, but like, instead of something you flip through, something that you build Avery's block with all this technology on it.
I could see maybe like a map that has, maybe this is where different of these bits of street furniture, or however Avery would refer to them, like in world.
Yeah.
Maybe there's just like a fold out section. It's like, oh, this is great.
It's like those small town tourist maps where it's almost characterized, where everything's kind of exaggerated in the map.
It's the shitty paper placemat at the diner.
Yeah, totally.
With ads for like, Hugo's hardware. Like that.
Yeah. It could also be like a physical flat map kiosk stand where one side is a map and two other sides are advertising that you might see in a touristy part of town. Or it could also just be a digital kiosk if you wanted to get all, Minority Report on that.
I went to a furniture store in Urumqi in Xinjiang province in China once, and it was one of the biggest stores I've ever seen. It's the farthest city from the ocean, and it's very, very cold. So they make very, very large interior spaces, kind of like Edmonton and places in Alberta. But it had furniture, it had urban exterior furniture. So they sold lampposts, and they sold parking bench, seating benches and things like that. And the range, they also sold like multi-story chandeliers for Russian oligarchs. They very much sort of siding with the aesthetic line more as more. But just the sea of all of the different lampposts and the different things, like the kitschy, weird boat motif and horse motif and all of these things. And like some of them were recognizable from my various hometowns in like Canada and New Zealand and things, but some of them were just completely alien. I was just like, where in the world do these things go? It was amazing to think about what sort of bizarre kitschy values that local municipal governments would have while installing some of these things, and the disgusting mismatch. And sure enough, actually, there are some parts of Urumqi city that they had probably gotten some of the seconds into, like So I just thinking about the sort of the different and weird values that that a place has as a consequence of choosing these, and then the combination of these. Also, I shared in the Discord a link to just the image search of the light posts in Mecca, the holy city, because they're weird in a way that doesn't feel entirely real. It's more like Dune 2, the video game. So yeah, it'd be fun to play with selling them as well.
That's really cool, because I think what's cool about what I get excited about street furniture is that it's oftentimes they're in multiples, right? And like municipalities have to buy, there's like a scale they have to purchase them in for to become economical. So everybody's probably heard about the $1 or $2 million trash can, or the $1 or $2 million toilet in San Francisco, and that's just like an economies of scale. It also makes me, I did a art project at PS1, MoMA PS1, where I made all these stickers. I invited people to
Super fun.
make their own block. So I basically, I got a grant from the city of New York to do this. And so, I still have, this is actually a block by my kid's school. And I illustrated PS1 here when they have the, and so like, there is something interesting about multiples. Julian and I talked about, like, are these trading cards, or these blocks, or these handbook? I think it's like one of those things that I think there's opportunities for different types of artifacts. It just like because I think some of the work could be done like a double duty. But I think I'm kind of at that point of thinking about, okay, is there enough interest here for me to like take some time to go deeper in it and keep generating? Because what's nice about it now is that it's this thing where it's literally just for me. And I'm just like, oh, like I can sort of wherever my fish brain swims, and I can go see it. And I want to make sure I'm intentional about if I sort of commit to something, then I want to make sure that it keeps that joyous, like, swim wherever this thing leads us feeling to it.
Yeah, that's you start yeah, I totally get what you mean. It's like, so you start going into this other world, and now it's like, oh fuck, man, now they said that I can't do that.
Gotta make the donuts, but they're still donuts are amazing.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find the way in which we can hold on to that kind of creative spirit and sensibility, and that sense of enthusiasm and kind of exploration, even as we make material things. And I'm pretty sure we can do it. There's definitely, like, I was definitely in a jiu-jitsu match with my printer the last 2 weeks, which is why I've been maybe a little bit quiet in the Discord, because it's like, no, you're still doing it in rich black. You need to make it. Since you just end up spending hours essentially like tweezing dandelions out of the lawn. But yeah, I think we can. I mean, because I think if the intent is, it's totally up to you if it's interesting as a experiment and fulfillment of kind of translating these ideas and impulses you have now into a thing. I think my own take is like, yeah, we should totally do it and just to see what happens. Like, the consequences are kind of negligible, and there's plenty of opportunity for upside, whatever that means in this context. Like, oh, cool, like we made a thing, another thing. Anyway, yeah, I mean, like let's keep talking about it. It feels like there's so many potentially very fun, frothy out, ways to that direction to go. The sticker thing is super interesting. I would love to figure out the tooling for that.
That was actually pretty easy because it was basically, well, let me see if I can, I'll try to open up my Illustrator file, but it actually started about 6 or 7 years ago as a Jane Jacobs versus Robert Moses RPG. And then that didn't really work out, but I had all these like
So I want to just like know, like the kids were like, I want to be Robert Moses.
yeah. Well, I can never really make the gameplay really work. And all of a sudden I had like 30 different houses, and I was like, oh, there's something here. And so every now and again, I like pull open the Illustrator file and be like, oh, there's this cool building here. Let me see if I can share screen. So this, oh, here we go. Oh, so you like zoom out and there's just a lot of stuff happening here. But I've got the Seagram's building here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of these buildings are actually existing. So this fire station is down the street from me. This is the park in Greenpoint I used to live next to. There's PS1. So this is this is actually my house that I live in right now. One of this middle one here. So it's been actually like an interesting, there's like a cool Venturi fire station. So I'm always up for like trying to reuse the stuff I've already made, because I actually made a set as stamps. And that was pretty cool, just to learn how to laser cut stamp materials.
Yeah. Jed and I were we were for the project, the Androids project, or the Sheep project, I don't know what we call it, Androids Dream project. We were originally trying to figure out how to do like die cut stickers as trading cards, like which that kind of idiom of trading cards you find at the corner store. But I never felt like 100% comfortable with the tooling. It was like, and just basically stops and like, look, that might be 2 or 3 extra things that we don't know how to do. We don't know how to do any of them. So maybe let's just do one of those things. Like, let's just do trading cards with the manufacturing tooling, such that you tell the guy, there's 64 unique ones. We want five in each pack, no duplicates, and we want foil wrapped. So that right there is like, there's a bunch of stuff going on that I've never done before. I get what it's supposed to be on the other side, but then you start getting into the arcana of like, all the technical lingo about that. So just learn one thing at a time.
Yep.
Figure that out, and then maybe the next time we do it, we do die cut, beautiful die cut stickers. I'm not even sure exactly what this. To be honest, well, I'm not. Yeah, the stickers, I'm not sure for the sheep, only because I'm like, my instinct is I wouldn't stick those things on anything. But that's just me. Like when I had wacky packages when I was a kid, the whole thing was like, no, don't stick them on anything. Keep them as a beautiful, pristine set. And then I don't know what, something I vaguely remember my childhood, like one of my siblings was like, fuck you, I'm gonna take all your stickers and stick them on stuff. I sort of remember a mirror in my bedroom covered with them. Like, no.
What was cool about stickers when I did it out in front of PS1 is that it basically like lured, it was like the kids could do it next to their caretakers or their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very not very precise with them, and to the point where I now still have like I have all of these left that I just give away to people. I was like, oh, here's some. Or I'll just like, at my kids' birthday parties, I'll just bring them out and the kids can go wild. And that's always fun, like the abundance and not have to care about the lack, that we're going to miss out is it's fun. It's a little wasteful for sure, but
I was going to piggyback off that, Julian. My parents are going through their houses and throwing away stuff from my childhood. My mom found a book of stickers that I had collected, and she asked if she could give it to my cousin's kids. And it was like this heart-wrenching moment. I mean, I said no, and I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I remember like pretty aggressively collecting these stickers during book fairs, if anyone had those as kids. And they never went anywhere. And I think like, I often think about like, I just love stickers, but and every now and then on Instagram, I get an ad for a company that makes stickers and I don't know what I would do with it, but like vinyl stickers or these embossed stickers, I will screenshot it because I just think it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I would do with it. And if I get a product with packaging that has a sticker on it, I sometimes keep it.
Yeah.
But again, it goes into like a box. And if a kid ever wanted it, I would take it out of their hand, right? Like I would never give it to them. I would never let them have it. But I don't know what the answer to that is, but I do love them. And Randy, are you from, I don't think we've ever chatted, but are you from the East Coast by any chance?
I'm in Queens right now, but I grew up in Ohio. So I'm Midwestern, but I've been here in New York for like 25 years.
Those stickers remind me, had anyone grown up with Cats Meow? Does anyone know those wood blocks? Those totally remind me of wood blocks of those cat meows. Do you know those, Randy?
No.
Like New England towns have these like, like on like Cape May or Martha's Vineyard or wherever, we'll have these. I mean, I love them. They're that like line drawing, very flat. I think they're
Yes.
aesthetically beautiful. And they sort of stand the test of time. I also wanted to mention the work of Martino Gamper, which I'm sure if you're at PS1, you may know of. But when you talk about street furniture, a completely different direction, but that Italian designer who would go through and just take chairs out of dumpsters, that kind of merges, Julian, what you're talking about, that maintaining that creativity and doing multiples, I think, while still having it be, all of it was functional, right? And all of it had an element of, none of it was just purely art or design, whatever those words really mean in this context, but could be a good like benchmark of play or practice to look at.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think stickers is like, so I do them and now I've been throwing them in when I ship stuff out. It just something about the potentiality, I think maybe more than actually it's something that you want to stick on. It's just like, could stick this on something, but I prefer to hold on to it until such an appropriate moment arrives. Although I've noticed when I give people the this is the enamel pin, but the sticker version of this one, that they immediately start fitting it on their iPhone. Hey Jeb,
Is there
while
like
you-
an act?
Oops, sorry.
Sorry.
No, to go.
Is
go
there like
ahead.
an activation sticker? Like, is there a sticker that prompts an action? I think is there like an obvious answer to that?
I mean, a QR code maybe, but is that
Yeah.
If you
Is
have
that like an AR
stickers that-
filter? Like, I don't
My
know.
favorite, that when you said that activation, I was thinking of something maybe a little bit more lo-fi. My favorite activation prompting sticker is it's a sticker that says now gesture enabled, wave to activate, and it looks very official. and you stick it on like a hand dryer or you stick it on anything, and people just sit there and they wave their hands underneath waiting for it to turn on, not realizing you still have to press the button. So I think that's kind of funny, is to prompting some social behavior by telling them that it's motion activated. But also the idea of using a marker or a tag to create an AR experience is also pretty cool too.
You could also make
Yeah.
in order to require people to make stickers, you could make them illegible or incomplete in their form on the sticker sheet, so that if they are white on a white backing, then you can't really see it. Or you have the ability to kind of modulate its visibility and legibility until it's on another background. And you could also make stickers that are layered, so that you have individual color transfers that people have to stick on top of each other in order to be able to make a picture. That would have the benefit of being color as well, because you'd have that and color and possessing depth.
Yeah.
Maybe people would like it in the same way that they like making their own cakes with an extra egg.
Yeah, that has
When
that
you said this,
beautiful. Sorry.
I was just saying it made me think if you have multiple layers, if you have a sticker that's kind of reusable, you can stick it somewhere, peel it off, and one of the layers stays behind. You know,
I was literally just about to say that, because like I think, when you drive through, especially in LA, there's all these billboards that are scaffolding, right? I mean, I know in New York too, but I take all these photos of just the remnants of when they tear them off, right? And there's these beautiful outlines of color that are very abstract. That's so stunning, right? It creates this and it's all unique. Like you can't get that. Each one is just completely different. I mean, I'm thinking about this for the merch department, but there's something really stunning about like peeling things off and having these layers left behind and sticking something back on.
it's like a shadow mask of the original piece of art.
Totally.
I did a project 10 or more years ago that I called it QSERP. And what I would do is I would print out QR codes that led to websites that I created, and I would place them over top of QR codes that were on ads in the wild. So if anybody scanned that QR code, I would QSERP it to come to like a weird anti-capitalist, anti-advertising, anti-consumerist message on a website somewhere else.
Great, that's like the offline version of Brave's business model.
You're right. You're right. That's very true.
Yeah, I'm just going to give my sticker story since I've been listening here. Kemp, to you, I had that sticker book too as a kid. And it's funny, it maybe 2 weeks ago, my mom was visiting. I'm like, Mom, where's that sticker book? Because a lot of my stuff got, I don't know, caught in a flood or something, it's like gone. So it's still unclear where that sticker book exists somewhere. And then as far as like, sticking the stickers, I was just thinking back, what stickers have I really stuck places opposed to just saving them? Because I tend to be a saver, a collector of things too. And I mean, it was like it was kind of based on the original Andre the Giant sticker campaign of basically they were just proliferated out into the world as stick these things everywhere so some people get the message, right? And I knew him and was sort of working with Shepard at that point in time. So, for him, it was just a factory of making the stickers and I was kind of on the end of handing them out to people and sticking them and stuff. But that was sort of like one of the few, sticker experiences in my life where it's like, okay, yeah, here's a stack of them, or there's so many of them and they're all pretty much the same, and go for it and take them and stick them and do whatever. And that was so, there was a real plan there, I guess, with like these are supposed to be stuck and put. And I guess a lot of other stickers that you get don't necessarily have that, clear of a action, I suppose. So, anyways, that's what I got.
So I part of my obsession with street furniture, I'll put this link in here, but is I started a typology city. And so I started what is like the bird organization of all these different things, outdoor dining, this is sort of, hoity-toity, different species, subspecies.
That's awesome.
And, what's the identification, the habitat, what's the range?
Like a field
Uh,
guide, like those lovely blue field guides of to the
Yeah.
northeastern
And,
birds or something.
and so, because there's a difference between a relay mailbox and the blue mailboxes. The
Right.
standard collection box receptacle, as the USPS says. And so, like, in my head, this was another project that sort of like never really turned into an artifact because I'm still in like collect mode. But you can sort of take that information and bring it to with there's those national park passports. Have you seen those where you can
Yeah.
like you have a passport and you stamp it in?
It's
And
just,
and
it just, I mean, that's so clever on the part of some government bureaucracy, because it's just like, oh man, that'd be totally fun. Of course, what
Like-
kid
like,
wouldn't
collect
want to
them
have
all.
a thing? And then,
You know,
and then
yeah.
basically ignore the park and just be like, look at all my, all this stuff.
yeah.
I,
No,
I,
we're
I
done.
like,
We're done. I got my stamp. Let's get out of here. Let's go. We got to get to Yellowstone.
I'm digging the field guide example. I think of the Audubon guide
great
to
archetype.
northeastern whatever. I did a field guide a few weeks ago on it was a drone identification for the northeastern part of America. But the idea of a field guide that is urban centric for a city, that you could get the New York field guide and you could see the I like this idea, this mailbox that you talked about, but down to like what are these weird items, like the water dispensing things or the houses that are actually electrical plants in disguise and they look like houses and so on, and someone could have a big year. They could visit a city, try to visit as many cities and spot as many of the items, the same way that a birder might have a big year to try to spot every single bird that they can on their list. And that's really interesting. And then you get North American city passport, and every city you visit you get the stamp in your book and you get to identify the different mailboxes that you've seen. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Field guide is such a great archetype. I mean, there was someday it'd be fun to do it would actually have to mean that these things would do the field guide to the various metaverses. Remember, Dre, we talked about that for the wallpaper city guide kind of thing but for metaverses, not for cities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I was just thinking, like, for merch and stuff, like, what's our version of a passport? Because one thing that keeps coming up when we ideate around product is everyone's versions of the future, right? So as we're creating this collective of people going off into these futures, is there a tool for them to create like a stamp or a sticker for their passport? That may be a little gimmicky and maybe that's not the direction it goes in, but like these national parks, I mean, there's like a whole subculture of gay men performing heteronormativity that you cannot walk into a bathroom without there being a national parks collect every map kind of thing in LA. So like I've seen this one specific national parks map is in every bathroom and everyone just like colors in which park they've gone to. So it's wildly popular. I mean, that concept of like collecting gives somebody a sense of identity. And I feel like we've already created, but ours could be just totally off the map. And I love the idea of like getting to the airport and pulling out my NFL passport and somebody being like, what the fuck is this? And being like, oh, it's the wrong passport.
Yeah. Hey,
I just think that'd be fun.
Oh, sorry, Cam.
No, that's it.
Good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, fashion month is over, so I'm like full back now.
I don't know if you saw it, not to distract you, but it's such a generative space that Drew started a fashion magazine from the future project. We talked and because he was doing a bunch of fashion stuff in the Discord, just Midjourney stuff, and I was like, hey man, always wanted to do Not always, I guess. In the recent past, the
Yes.
idea of doing a magazine from the future, but that was a fashion magazine, because
Oh my
as
God,
we've
I love
said
this.
over and over again, like fashion, it is like I think it's one of those kind of cultural idioms that is it's in the future to a large degree.
Yeah.
Like that's what avant-garde, whatever. It's like just before its time, and so it seems like a fun space to play. I'm not 100% sure where it's going to end up, but Drew is just so. He's just definitely less yammering, more hammering kind of fella. So he's like already like,
Yeah.
what InDesign template should we use? And I'm like, yeah,
I
man,
love that.
get it, get after it, let's get this thing going. And I just started pulling some stuff off the shelf and out of the bins. Like, actually had this big high snobriety. I could grab it, but it's like this big folio sized magazine that they did. That I'm not sure if I got it because of this or just because I was like, oh, this looks cool. But it's got like all this very explicitly future oriented, not a bunch of like articles or whatever, spreads of weird stuff. Yeah, I think it could be a great way not only to have a magazine from the future in the as a project, but also through that I'm hoping to like get more language around how fashion is futuristic, and like more. I'm not just more than just saying that, like, well, what does that mean and how does it work? And personally, like selfishly, for me to understand fashion slightly differently and
Yeah.
just the pedestrian kind of understanding of it, which is like, oh yeah, that's fashionable. Like, what do you mean by that? And why does that get assigned that and something else doesn't? And then I don't know, just I would love spending time or having legitimate good excuse through a project to ponder that and however we do it, workshops or chats or whatever.
I'd love that. I spent the last month just like buried in Fashion Week stuff, because it kind of roams
A
around.
month in Fashion Week. I love that.
Yeah, I know. I was actually thinking about that this morning. I was like, when I get on this call, I'm going to say that phrase, and it's going to be so satisfying to make no sense.
Yeah.
But and like the research that I've been doing from it, all of it is really shifting right now. And I know there's others on this call too that are like really involved in that as well. But it's really fast. I think it's a great time to create that magazine, because sort of the rails are sort of off in a lot of ways, right? Like I've never heard more people say more comments about previous publications being irrelevant or like a Met Gala being irrelevant. I mean, I think a lot of people in fashion have known that's irrelevant, but its power has still been there for a long time. So it's now really shifted. And, last week we had Versace in LA. That was a huge moment for just the shifting of cultural things. And it's a lot of things that are really shifting right now, which I think is a great time to start a fashion futures magazine.
Totally.
So, and I've got Nick, who you met with, is coming in, and I'm trying to get one of the deans from Parsons to join. They just went on sabbatical, so I think they would be a great person to bring on as well to that.
Awesome, good stuff.
But yeah, no, I'm back now fully, and I've seen a lot of weird, fun stuff. So I'm excited to. If you guys have a call for that, let me know, because I'd love to. Or if we want to set one up, I'd love to do something with that.
Yeah, and I mentioned to Drew, kind of backfilled him in on the core chore code project, mostly just to kind of give him a sense of like what's going on in sort of related. And yeah, literally, I think we talked about it on maybe Wednesday, and then maybe yesterday I set up the channel, so it's super fresh. But it's already like, oh man, I've got to catch up, because you kind of
same.
It's beautiful.
The last time I checked the Discord,
just to say, let's maybe just try to find maybe a time for us to all three of us just figure out what might be a good way to I don't know, do a workshop, something like that, to think around and talk about it live.
Yep. I had a meeting with Benjamin, and I met right before I kind of dove into Fashion Week stuff. We had a really good call. I'll plan on just presenting some stuff next week so that we can dive off into some solid ground, or we can jump off from some solid ground. But we had a really good call. That was sort of where I left things. And then I saw the Rational Dress post in the Discord. I'm not sure who posted that. Does anyone here posted that? It's like a jumpsuit. Does anyone remember that? It's
Yeah,
made here in LA.
I think, did I post that?
I think you might have. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember exactly.
I've been-
but does any,
I've been kind of nudging. It's a whole story. I need to tell you, nudging into the jumpsuit space. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got another thing that I've got a fairly substantial collection of.
Same. I
And-
love jumpsuits. I've prototyped a bunch. So
Yeah, and so-
that's
and I got-
something that I want to
actually-
make.
From you, yes, okay, so good. So actually, I've got the
Yeah.
term. I've started calling them boiler suits because I learned that from you. That when we
Yeah.
came over for that workshop, and I want to be. I was actually talking to Camille when she came over. It's like I want to be careful about that one because it felt like the nervous reaction I had was like, oh, is this going to distract from the chore code? But
Well, yeah, for me right now it would, because I'm
yeah,
so distracted in general, but we'll do that next.
yeah. So just to add on to that, so and tell me if I already told you this. My brother's brother-in-law, I just call him my brother-in-law, is kind of, he's a musician and also sort of like in the fashion space to a certain degree, and his wife is definitely in the fashion space. Like when we usually see them, it's because they're coming down here for some kind of fashion thing, and also good friends with the Wild Fang
Mhm.
folks. And so I was like, there are too many connections here for me not to reach out to Ray Ray and just be like, I got this idea I've always wanted to also do. And so he hooked me up with a couple of kind of connects in that space. And so I'm partially wondering if there is a beautiful, generative, constructive, non-distracting way of kind of having these both go. And I'm not saying like I need you to do this other thing, but what I do want to say is, and you know what, I always take on too much. If I started in that space, is there a really wonderful way in which these coexist in parallel without and maybe even they're generative of each other in a way, because I would be
I love that.
yeah. It's just a thing because it's like I just get like I got so excited. It's like I got a list of people to reach out to that I haven't, because also like all of us, it's like, well, Julian, you're supposed to finish that book project as well, and you got this other thing, and there's a new logistics operation that's doing 4 weeks of onboarding. You probably don't need to do this, but at the same time, it's like maybe I might just like, you know what, I'm gonna just start that bolognese on a simmer, and it'll be ready in time when we're ready to eat. kind of thing.
Yeah, it's also a nice exercise for me to like not control it, right? Because I feel like when you're working on a project, or if you're show running, or if you're working on a garment, I get too heady and then I stop, and then the whole project stops. So if there is a sort of like somebody working on another garment or another part of merch, then it kind of forces you to constantly be iterating. I'm totally down for that. It's a nice way of in tandem. I've got a bunch of prototypes. When next time we meet in person, I'll bring all my boiler suits. It also kind of keeps in line with working on garments that have a historical past of workwear, right? Like the chore coat comes from a historical past of workwear. The boiler suit does as well. And there's something intrinsically valuable to me in that. Also thematic, but yeah, the Rational Dress Society, I think it's very, one of the founders of that lives in Silver Lake. The other one is at SAIC. She and I taught there together. So she's a good friend. So we can even reach out to them if we want to and talk to them. They're really based on concept, right? So I would say their concept almost suffocates their ability to produce at a larger scale. Not that that's a bad thing, I said suffocates. That sounds bad. But yeah, we can have a larger conversation. Don't need to
Yeah.
hijack the whole thing, but
Yeah, cool. Yeah, let's maybe try to at your leisure, I guess, find a time to do another IRL workshop. Just as a note, like I'm out the last week of March. I'm gonna be in Detroit. I'm gonna try to find if there's some opportunities for us to do an event there. For some reason, Detroit as a place has always been amenable, or people like, yeah, totally. What do you need? Just let us know. Need a camera crew? Do you need a
question for everybody real quick. Does Friday after our calls ever work for anyone for like workshops, or is that just a bad time?
Works for me. I generally keep Friday clear after.
Same. Okay. I might try to do a Friday like after like a noon PST time. All right, cool. I actually have to run to finish up this project. But I'll send out I'll start posting in Discord. It was great to see everybody.
Good seeing you, Kemp.
See
Take
y'all.
care, my friend.
Bye.
I'm gonna do David. And we talked to the mafiosos, and then they didn't want us to actually drop off the money. So the way it worked was we ran the guns upstate. Did I get that right? Is that like the 60 minutes deep cover?
You need like 10% more Android voice.
Yeah, I can't do it. No, stay in the shadow. Yeah. Hey Jed, should we quickly do sheep project chat? So I'm right now, I literally have an email open to our printer guy to do the book. And
Okay.
so he sent like a bunch of questions. So this is a project for those who haven't heard about the Android Stream project. Jed started playing with Midjourney, and made these, one of Jed's muses. I just say this, I don't know if this is actually the case, is like hoofed animals and cloven-footed animals, sheep,
Yeah.
cows, and that kind of thing. Occasionally other creatures. And so when he started playing with Midjourney, like the next day he's like, here's what I got, and it was like there were these kind of like really compelling sheep. And Jed, do you want to share? Do you have that Figma doc?
Yeah, sure.
And so it was just kind of, as I saw them, I was like, oh man, there's something here. And I know Jed's been also, his mind's been on like collectibles, and he's got an NFT project and that kind of stuff. So it was like immediately went to like, oh, let's do these as well. Did not immediately, but we eventually got to the idea of doing them as trading cards. And I've been looking for the opportunity to do work on the manufacturing tooling for trading cards. And so we very quickly found an outfit that can do them, and figure those out, the foil packed kinds of things. And so that's where the idea started. And then Jed shared them with his stepdad, and his stepdad was like, hey, there's this guy who wrote this book called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And when he said that, I was like, oh damn, okay, so even more of a project. And so I had the algorithm, ChatGPT, kind of like spent like maybe like 6 or 8 hours with it rewriting Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep from different points of view, almost like an analysis of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And then I did a quick composition, just as a sketch of a rework of the cover, and changed the title because it was easy enough to take out the do, and just had the title Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, as a kind of almost as if it were like a 1970s paperback kind of pop psychology book that implied that this was a book about the psyche of the android. Just understanding your teenage child, kind of pop psychology book. And so then the idea was like, let's just do this. Like, let's make the card deck. I mean, the trading cards, and let's do this book, because I've got these 2 other print books in manufacturing, and so if we could do 3, then that would be kind of cool. And then I got super ahead of myself and proposed it as one of the books that we would have at the LA Art Book Fair. So now we've got to really get it done.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the idea, so Jed, so now with the book, I'm literally like, I'm trying to give the guy specs for like paper and that kind of stuff. And then I had this idea that it would be mixed paper, which says no problem at all, and that maybe in the center section there would be some of the sheep as like color plates, as what they used to call color plates.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's the thing I was going to talk to you about the other day if we were going to have a call, but we decided to just defer to now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yesterday got distracted, I guess.
Yeah,
I was
no worries.
going longer.
Julie, your discussion here and these pictures made me think of this insane book that I found the other day. It's called How We Make Ducks Pay, and it's really about growing ducks and farming ducks. But this looks like some way to turn turn these sheep into utilities. Like, how do you make them farmhands? How do you make them storage? How do you make them 3D printers and so on and so forth? How do you make sheep pay?
Yeah. So those are some of the so Jed, maybe show the overall architecture for the cards.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I guess you got some of the stuff here. Actually, I haven't looked at the Figma lately, so.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, to that point, yeah, so these ones sort of have categories of maybe what their expertise are, I guess, maybe, or, what they've been proficiently designed to do, perhaps, as a, roll multiplier or a rapid pellet replicator. But let's see, I think the last ones we were looking at were these. I don't have any other ones since we talked about it last as far as the layout goes, but this was sort of the idea of a front and a back in the horizontal, and then we talked about the traditional vertical, which was something like this one, and then yeah, that other area I was just pointing to was a section of sort of, as Julian referred to as the kind of the rarity mechanic, or the mechanic behind how collectability might fall into place, or what these sheep may be tuned for. And then yeah, I'd say the other aspect from a narrative perspective is a lot about the descriptions, and this is sort of an example of a description that Julian put together early on, which is sort of in the vein of like an Auto Trader or Uncle Henry's, which is sort of like a local version of buy, sell, trade, anything around you. And so this was Julian's first go at this image above. Basically, I handed him this image, so you got a description for that, and he whipped out this one. And so it's been kind of yeah, it stemmed from there. And then
This reminds me of the personality cards on the back of Transformers.
Yeah, I haven't dove too deep into many. I should more, I guess. Yeah, I haven't looked at Transformer ones. This kind of started, I guess, with, conversation started around Garbage Pail Kids for that sticker thing, sticker concept, and then yeah, I sort of went off on a tangent of looking at I don't know, old cards that I may have collected as a kid, and like Star Wars was one of them here. But yeah, and then I think the conversation really led towards making the sheep in the front, you know, really front and center, because they're detailed and they kind of are pretty complex in image in themselves, I guess. And so maybe it's you know, a brief description or term, or in this case, it's like sort of the name, the breed, and sort of the you know, what the breed maybe specializes in. You know, and then again, this is sort of a different idea of a presentation where there's a bit more of a descriptor and an image on one side. So, and then this sort of layout is, I don't consider myself like a naturally strong graphic designer, but I, you know, it was kind of taken from a food label as sort of a way of presenting the information. So yeah, that's where that was at. But to the point of the, Julian, I like that thought of, you know, in the book presenting some imagery, you know, in the section. And, you know, is that, I guess, what might that be? Is it more of a,
Yeah.
is it more of like some highlighting a few, or is it more like you know, maybe some information about a flock?
Yeah.
Not sure.
The part that I don't want to overthink is like how the sheep are connected in, because yeah, it's just all the connections between the different aspects. I mean, I think the sheep are just like so in the center of the book, if you did have sheep, yeah, I'm just saying back what you're saying, like what goes along with it. I mean, there was a time early a few weeks ago where we were sort of thinking like, oh, maybe the book would actually have the sheep, you know, like in a spread. So it's like, here's the sheep and here's the data or whatever, you know, the whatever would be on the back of the card. Or so I think it's still open. I'm not sure exactly what feels right. Definitely getting a, you know, the order of like decision and what makes sense as a creative project is a little bit muddled, but I'm okay with that. Mostly because I really just want this, you know, I want the book. Like I want that. I think it's just it's too interesting not to do. And actually, I was sort of thinking more over the last week or so about the cover design, and there's something about that one cover. I forget the name of the illustrator who did it, which is I think the one that you have in this here that you're.
This
Yeah,
one or the other one, the darker one.
No, this one.
This one, yeah.
Which is I think it's like.
I think that's the last one that you I don't know, I found somewhere you gave me.
Yeah, there's something. So just, you know, with that particular sheep illustration.
This is the original one.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know. I have to do my research, but I feel like that's like the first edition one because it's super hard to find.
I think this is I think this was sent to me as like, this is the first edition, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is. But I might be making that up. So part of me was like wondering about like redoing even that illustration.
This one over here.
Well, either one. They're both the same. Like the sheep illustration with it plugging into something.
Mm-hmm.
But with one of your electric sheep. So basically, you're unwrapping an electric sheep. One of your sheep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so you're talking about more on the cover there, what the cover might look like.
Yeah, because you know, pretty soon the guy's gonna be like, "Hey, where's your cover?"
Yeah. So what are you thinking of, like so that image in a way, this one?
Just redoing, re-illustrating that same idea, right?
Yeah.
So you know that this is the reference image, only rather than Dolly or whatever sheep is used in that image as a, but it's one of your electric sheep.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Gotta pick one, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, or one that represents, sure. Yeah, that'd be
As just a kind of like, oh, those cheeky guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a nice image, or way of, altering the cover more.
It's all, just these elaborate kind of like tip of the hat.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How to tip the hat. Um, yeah, I'm assuming you have a pretty tight time frame for the image portion or add-on.
I'm saying so because I think these next books, I think on the schedule, I think they were shipping like mid-April.
Yeah,
Not that that's a big issue, but it feels like that there's a window, because there's, I don't know, there's if we can do them all together, then obviously it just kind of lowers the the shipping cost. And if per book. And what was the other thing? And I think they're just windows in which the shipping happens. It's not like boats
right.
are, maybe
Well,
boats are going every day, but whatever. It just sounded like this guy was like, okay, and then here's literally in the thing, it's like, here's when they open the doors on the ship. And I don't think that was a bad translation. I think it was like, yeah, and they spend 2 days loading stuff on it.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sounds like we should get on it.
Yeah.
That particular part.
The book part, I think the card part seemed like it was just like a couple week turnaround for manufacturing.
Yeah.
And that guy's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Well, we should sort the images out then, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have plenty of time this week, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sure, the cards. Yeah, in some ways it's sort of, I feel like the more of the work at the moment is maybe just tightening up. What is that presentation for the front and back of them? A lot of I think a lot of the data is sorted.
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking about this last night, and when Dre Patrick and I did the magazine, the Autonomous Future magazine, there was this plugin for InDesign called DocsFlow. I never used it because mostly Patrick was doing the InDesign stuff. And so I stumbled across that last night when I was doing something for the magazine. And I was like, that might be an interesting way, because the way it works is essentially the text is in a Google Doc, and then it's slurped up the flange to InDesign. So, and it sounds like you can go both ways. So I'm just thinking from a production standpoint, like maybe it's time to start getting this stuff out of Figma. I could be wrong. So I'm just my idea, because I'm not a Figma user, and then get a template in InDesign for this.
I started building that back of the card in InDesign, because I was going to use data merge. Data merge is similar to this DocsFlow thing. I've used data merge a bunch in the past, and everything's just a CSV file. So I usually build it all in Google Docs, export it as a CSV. And then the nice thing about data merge is you can put file names in there so that you can just refer to files in a directory. And then that way the whole card can be automated as a single layout. And then when you export, it will export panels based on how many up and over you need. And that was, I was going to ask you, was like, what are the actual card sizes? And then I can build a layout that has cut lines and all that stuff. And then there's just I'll look into this DocsFlow, because it would be easier to not have to convert to a CSV and do it directly with Google Docs. But if we can do it with Google Docs, that means everyone can team up, write, edit, fix, do all that stuff. And then it's just a matter of exporting a PDF, and we have the most recent version of what it looks like. that we can proof. And yeah, just it makes layout life way easy. What I would need to know is what's the specific card size, and then how many down. Is it 4 up? Is it 3 up, or whatever? Is it being printed on 8.5 by 11? Whatever your printer tells you to do would be how we could lay it out, and it would be a easy peasy way to make this happen.
Yeah, I'm curious about DocsFlow. So it's you have to license it. So there's that, and so I don't know how. I think that means that there's probably it's only people who have a license can be in InDesign, which could be totally fine for this project. Like, I could just be the InDesign kind of node, and then the idea that you can distribute the other aspects of it through Google Docs is kind of interesting and nice. And the license isn't cheap, but I think I'm we just pull funds from the kitty just to be like, okay, let's give this a, and it's also like one of those fucking like, this is a 6-month license. Like, really, come on. But maybe it's, we do it and it just becomes part of the tooling for projects, and that's just factored into what happens when we do projects.
Once a design is known and the sort of this parameter space of how it's supposed to be laid out, it's not horrifically difficult to generate to write a web page that can consume stuff and create SVG files that would be appropriate for printing and potentially the hinting for things like cutting as well. So I'm not sure who has experience with that. I have done things like that before. I've procedurally generated PDFs from data sheets for upward motors, things like that. So it is possible to, once you have a design, and I made a website a few years ago, like you wouldn't download a car campaign. I made a website that allowed you to generate automatically your own you wouldn't catchphrase and then sort of pit them off against each other. So there are ways, and I was using ImageMagick, but yeah, like there are lots of different options. If you have the design, then it doesn't even need to touch InDesign necessarily once you're confident in the sort of the parameter space of it.
Yeah.
That fits with a question I had, which is there some digital component to the Sheep catalog? So if you're in production, could you produce some artifact that lived on the web and there was a correlated barcode on the cards to give a digital component to the card? I know that's a lot of work, but it also means you could have more animated dreams, so to speak, later.
Yeah, I think we were going to have a conversation kind of about that this week, but it didn't happen. Yeah, I have thoughts around that, whether it's on a card or maybe it's like one card in the pack of 5 that's kind of for that reason.
Oh, I was just seeing the barcode itself as an interesting component on the card. That's the reason I got there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
literally-
a backdoor into another world or entry or an open door, I guess. It's all a nice.
Then we can have an electric sheep simulator someday. You can go play sheep simulator.
Yeah. Yeah, where would it? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a nice thought.
Yeah, just that. But it's really a question of how easy is it as a spin-off from whatever like web tools get made, like he was just suggesting. So if it's easy to spin off the artifact, then it's maybe worth pursuing if it's like low hanging fruit, because the production line can make it.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have like a, I guess, a digital conversation too. That'd be fun to do. I think we, like I said, we were gonna do it, but we haven't put it in the,
Yeah.
made a time for it yet. I know Drew was interested in that, if I remember right. In what that could be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective was just, yeah, how it's kind of the technical, but bit kind of what you're referring to is how easy is it to include, in the manufacturing process, and doesn't necessarily have to all be sorted out on day one, but could be put in place.
Yeah, honestly, you could just produce the barcodes. They don't even need
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah, well, so the way you do something like that is if you have a barcode or a QR code, you can generate, like, they're unique in that you have a text string, numerical string, whatever, that
Yeah.
refers to something, and so that can be a URL, and that URL can include sort of data components. That means that rather than going to a place where you have to have a specific page, you just have it basically define the parameters for it, so that you get to decide whenever you want what you do with those parameters. So that if it's like that, like sheep.com / generate sheep height equals 10, then you can make that do something, and the QR code doesn't look like it, but that's what it sort of tells the system.
Well, yeah,
And
you
so
could make a bunch of hard web addresses for each card. I mean, and then those are portals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you don't even need to parameterize it. You can make it so that there's some kind of unique hash on it, so that if it's just an index number or something like that. Like, I made a system a while ago called Auto Baroque, that folks might have seen, where I'll post it in the Discord as well. And if you go there and you press Q or just click on that reload refresh button, then it generates a random sort of Baroque frame, and the URL updates, so that like there's like 688.132.814, and if you paste that to somebody, it'll generate the same image. But it's not that I have that number of things up on the page. It's just that my page is interpreting those numbers as a thing, as a generator function for being able to build things, so that they're chaotic but deterministic, so that the same number always produces the same result.
Right.
Yeah. That's clear. I get that. Yeah, I guess if we were to include it, the question is like, where, I guess that becomes more of a design question. Is it on the back of the card? Is it on every card? Is it on the foil pack? Is it a separate card that exists in the pack as a window to something? I've kind of thought about that in previous, but not just in my own head. So that's what it's about as far as I thought through it.
Julian, did you see the dissected sheep on the first edition cover?
That's our it might be the first edition cover, we don't know, but that particular one that Jed shared, the kind of
Yeah.
cyany blue cover.
No. It's somebody else. Let's see here. Brandel posted.
I'm
that.
not sure what is the first edition. When I looked for it, it looked like that, maybe. So I'm not sure. with a
Oh, sorry,
complicated font.
where did you post it? In the
In the chat log.
Office hour chat.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that before. Hmm.
I do like that font though. Somebody really likes spirals.
Oh yeah.
What is that? Spiral something?
I do like that font. Somebody really likes spirals.
Oh
The
yeah.
Oh,
fact that there's
Yeah.
like 2,000-degree spiral there.
2000-degree spiral. Yeah,
So
I could copy that font. I could handwrite that.
I'm sort of so yeah, I'd never seen that one. And it might be first edition. I guess it's less the I've just been saying first edition, and that seems to be like one of the canonical I guess, idiomatic references to the book. So if you Google it, you come up
Are
with
you-
a bunch of like really crappy covers for later editions or the current, printing or whatever that I wouldn't get just because I don't like the cover.
Are you talking about the rind? It looks like Escher's rind.
Yeah, it looks like a rind, and there's a European style plug at the end of it. So I would replace that with a
Yeah,
three
yeah,
prong.
yeah. It's
Or
just
maybe
above in the
maybe I
stream.
replace it with a USB-C.
I put
connector.
it in the chat stream. It's just above the other one.
Yep, yeah, that's exactly the one that I'm looking at right now that you just posted.
Yeah.
I don't know, could be, I don't know if I could, if someone could coax Midjourney to do something similar, or just commission someone like, hey, you do this for book cover. Doesn't seem like, I don't want to, I'm understating it. Doesn't seem like a lot of work.
Well, I think the trick would be to get the same art quality between the Midjourney one and whatever your cover was, so that if you could get Midjourney to do that, which I'll try.
minus V5, minus V5.
Yeah, yeah,
maybe.
yeah. I flipped the switch yesterday.
Yeah.
What is it doing? I haven't had a chance.
It's doing more.
The way I would articulate it is they've improved the natural language processing. So the older versions, you could get a lot of traction off of one small word, and now it's you got to be a lot more precise. And so people seem to be a bit disappointed in the power of their weak prompts, one might say. Whereas the quality photographically is way up, the hand accuracy is way up. I think they've improved, a few of the sort of holes and complaints. They've also changed it so when you do your first pass and you get your quad, those are already at full res. So when you ask to see the upscale, it's instantaneous. There's no server hit. And they're already pre-rendered, so you can just pull them down. And so it's operating at a higher resolution than it used to.
Right.
I think that my personal prompt style will work better than it used to. So I'm going to go back and mine my prior work and see how they look. I do a lot of dragons, and I have to say the first dragon I made with it, the photorealistic quality was really good, but the way it interpreted it was completely different. So I think it's just gonna be the next thing. It's not like I myself prefer that attitude towards software where yeah, we're moving forwards with this. Your old way isn't going to work anymore, and we're not going to have DOS 3 on a computer 50 years later. I freaking hate that. So
Steady.
Gen
Steady.
5. We're on Gen 5.
steady.
Easy.
If I were king of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess the other thing is to there I get and I sort of understand like like my instinct was like, should I go back and redo everything? It's just like, no, fuck no. You don't have time for that. You got 500 cars you got to deal with.
Right.
Just
Yeah, I think
What, and
that's on the
from
like ABC,
are you
viewer-
starting ABC Solarpunk over?
We're not over, but like I have like one example that I can share real quick, which was
Because you're also going to be on the table at the LA
yeah, I know.
Art Book Fair,
It's like hurry up.
and it can't be a
So-
bunch of printouts.
Yeah, let's see, is this the right one? Yeah, so this was like a V1, and I liked it because it was like painterly and people could read into it, and it's definitely an illustration, and it's supposed to be like a CAP elevator. And then with V4, I did this, which is actually like people in the industry would read that as a CAP elevator. It's like it needed more visual processing or whatever, but like when you see the comparison between those, it's like a different book. Like if like one of them is definitely more painterly and the other one is like more like an illustration. So that's kind of a problem that we're running into as we add the new things, make some of the old stuff look outdated.
Well, you can always roll back to the older versions, but you don't get the accuracy. It might be like people. I've heard that like Octane Render and one of the big differences is people were saying things like what program was it? It was some. I'm just going to say Lightforge, but it was some other renderer. So they were
Unreal
saying,
Engine.
yeah, Real Engine. Thank you. And Real Engine was giving them some good quality. And now Real Engine is less. It looks like it's rendered instead of as photographic as the natural like.
Yeah, I've been playing with version 5 on some Solarpunk stuff yesterday and today. Yeah, it's got a bit more of a photorealistic look. I'm not as concerned with the flip-flopping of styles. I think that makes the book more interesting. Otherwise, what happens is that it becomes too generic. The main things that I think we need to watch out for is just stay away from anything that looks like it's obviously been ripped off from another artist, because I think there's a lot of controversy around artists' work being used to train the model. I think we just don't use, in the style of insert artist's name. We just, that's the rule we use, we now have to use.
Okay,
so
but
that's one way of looking at it.
I want to ask you about that later. I'll just hold it in this finger.
Yeah. Okay, sure. And then, but I think that there are things that we can do to get more artistic looks from Midjourney, and even Philip, to your point, rolling back to a different version is entirely doable. And I think this is just part of what we're doing. We're using this AI thing, and it looks dated once the next version comes out. Like there is a look to this thing. And the other thing to consider is that version 6 is coming out in 2 months. So
okay, so why don't we capture that in the text as a problem faced by putting the versions of the renderer in there and speaking about the stratospheric climb we're facing, and the choice as editors to incorporate that as a moment in time. I mean, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I don't see it as a problem. I see it as a stylistic,
Right.
like ultimately it comes down, it's not about the machine rendering the art. It's about the human making a judgment call and using their taste.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that was rendered in version 3 that looks great. I would be happy to do that. And to me, it's like, it's not about looking at it as a problem, but using it as a way to celebrate that moment in time. I've got stuff that I did in VQ GAN before Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, all that kind of stuff. That's just atrocious looking by today's standards, but I love the way they look, because it's like, that's what AI looked like a year and a half ago.
Right. I think that this should be seen as a
embrace
document of the period in that sense, like, because that's really cool.
I had one technical question on when you go back with your prompts, can you, if you haven't pre-planned this, can I get the exact image again with those prompts?
That's the thing I'm running into. When I did the first ones, I didn't use a seed.
You can pull this. You can get the seed back from the job. You go to the image and react with the envelope.
Yeah.
And then they'll spit back the job number and the seed. So you
Yeah, you
could,
can extract the seed and just use the same seed. You won't get the exact same image, but you get you'll get an image that's based on the noise pattern that it worked from.
which is trippy. Like when they describe that's how this you get the seed back, that we just start with a bunch of random roll of the dice.
There's
I was just
something
like,
more
what
sophisticated.
the fuck's going on with this?
Sorry to interrupt. There's something more sophisticated with the seeds than just the random noise field, though, because I've seen somebody who's consolidating specific character looks and quality facial looks in the seed, and then copying that seed and then moving it to another thing. And by the time they had reasserted a specific seed several times, that character was sort of baked in, and they could then dress it up or change the background or do different things to it. It was some kind of voodoo I didn't understand, because it made no sense to me as to what is the seed. To me is just this stochastic noise on the starting image, right? Do you guys agree with that?
Yes and no. I mean, no, if it's not really, if we're not really understanding it. Yes, it's like that was my, when I read the manual or whatever on that point, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. It sort of felt right, but I'm not a scientist in this space. It felt like, from what I know about math and stuff, like, yeah, okay. It's like, seeding, if you were generating a random number, the challenge with random numbers, as I understand it, is that you need to find like a good seed. And if you repeat the seed, you stand a chance of being able to crack the dude's whatever, cryptography. And that's why sometimes hardware seeds are generated from just like gathering gamma radiation kind of stuff.
Lava lamps and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to this question, because like these things are trained on these artists so that they have the quality of insight that those artists developed over time. And we've collapsed that into a set of neural nets, and we can tickle the nets to give us images. There's no way to avoid the fact that that artist is in there. And so not stepping on his name or evoking it directly seems just like a shallow way to say, to stay clean or something. It's not really quite accurate.
I would
So
say
that's
it's
my-
not. I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say less of a shallow way. It's an indirect way to not like, because I could say in the style of like Japanese 1980s Japanese animation instead of Studio Ghibli. I'll probably get something very, very similar, but there
I could
is
say
something
Japanese 1840 and I'd get a hokusai. So but my point is, when you now take that thing as a medium and you say hokusai, Norman Rockwell, and Jackson Pollock make me a painting of an electric sheep, you're combining vectors that have never been added together. You're bringing a stylistic reference from these three places, but those painters never made that picture. You're not treading on anybody's toes. If those people are dead, they'd be happy as fuck that they're incorporated and alive in the world. So please reference my ghost. You know, these people who are complaining about this and generating this pushback on it are basically legitimately the first to be disenfranchised by AI. But they're going to have the same fucking complaints all over the place. So should we make this thing and then not use it? That's what you're basically saying.
So this is Dre and David. They're the showrunners. So I follow their lead on this. So I'm sensitive to Dre, what you're sort of, capturing. Again, this, we're good friends by now. So it's like, I'm not complaining by any means. I am curious about I guess I'm less emphatic than random. What I am is like, I'm really interested in the conversation. Like, let's talk about why this is activating people, and I'm sensitive to it too. I could totally get, like my first reaction might be like, I can't believe this. Like how, and then Midjourney's making money. Like, this is not right. There's not a good value exchange network going on here. I feel exploited,
and I
feel
agree
like
with
this is
that.
extractive. And so as a creator, like I could totally get it. I totally get it. At the same time, if we were doing like the kind of near future laboratory thing, we'd be like, what does this actually look like in you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 years time? Like, is there does someone evolve and say like, okay, well, you know, let's try to find the interesting way to mediate this. And if, you know, I'm not saying that this is what Midjourney should do, or whatever Midjourney and other the kind of network of companies that end up doing this kind of thing. But is there like every time, you know, like Spotify, every time your name appears, you get a ridiculously small amount of Mazuma or whatever. But the other point is like, when, I mean, I never got an MFA, but if I got an MFA, I imagine there's a point where it's like, you got to do art history. It's like, I just want to create, none of you got to do art history. And you're sitting in these classes and you're looking, it's like, actually, you know, I'm feeling this, whatever this is, like the way the Northern European painters captured light. I'm feeling that, and for some reason it's being integrated into my practice, either deliberately or inadvertently, or because I was asked to do, you know, some class in my 101 that said like, paint this in this style, paint this in this style, and paint this in this style. So you can learn technique, you can learn, you know, mixing colors, whatever it is. So I think is a little bit, it's both understandable, but also kind of like, that's not the way art works, folks. It's not the way it works.
I
And
think
so
the thing for me with
No.
the book is that's not the conversation I want to have with the book.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
the
exactly,
book is supposed to
exactly.
be about solar punk, so I'm trying to just like not like inoculate against getting pulled down into a different conversation
I'm
than
100%
the one that
with
we're
you.
trying to have.
100%.
Yeah.
That's
But
I think
being-
that's the pivot. That's the point.
Here-
So
But being very careful as an artist, like that kind of that I understand and respect what you're saying, but as an artist, I want to mobilize my art history training. I do have a BFA. I want to reference all these things and see what comes out, and I'm interested in that process not being hobbled as much as possible. I'm having great on ChatGPT. I'm learning how to write stories and books where I just direct the action and it comes back and tells me the next chapter, and I read it and I'm like, that's fun. Let's do this to that. And, you know, it's like a new form of interactive fiction.
Well, no
And-
one's complaining about writers' writing being stolen in Chat GPT, when I think the writing is more rampant than, and this thing is, I don't believe that anything's being stolen. I understand how neural networks work, and it's learning and it's understanding patterns and it's seeing patterns. So it's not copying and pasting. It's not doing that type of stuff. And I think that if you criticize a neural network for learning a style, you may as well be criticizing anyone who's ever gone to art school, because typically you learn how to imitate the masters, and then that transmogrifies into a style of your own that you now have to give royalties to the masters you've learned from. No, that's not how it works. But I have full agreement of that. But I think in the context of where we are right now, there's a few lawsuits that are on. I think it's just, don't in the style of a specific artist on a piece of work that you want to put out there, so that you don't get nipped in, kicked in the ass for it, or that you can say, hey, listen, we have kind of lightly or indirectly tried to steer away from that conversation. But I'm more in David's camp. Like, I'd rather not talk about AI at all in the book. And just one quick tangent,
I think that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, one quick aside. Midjourney is, I don't know if you've seen the magazine that they've launched.
Yeah. I just picked that. I just picked up that thread yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to the website, mag.midjourney.com, I believe, if you use the promo code subscribed, you'll get the first issue for free.
Yeah. Thank you. I should do that. Yeah, I mean, I think your reference to how things are combined to create your own personal style is the essence of it. And when you look at like a corpus like legal reference, and I think we should be looking a little bit at what lawyers are doing about this, because they care. And
well, so I think the disconnect here, Phil, is the difference, but it's to do with the generalities versus the specifics for ABC Solarpunk and the time horizon on which these things are being worked out. So it's not that nobody should ever do this. And I'm sure both David and Dre are doing things in the style of
where the tables.
It's really specifically for ABC Solarpunk, because the sort of the closure around the things that it wants to address, the questions that they're trying to answer, and the additions to the conversation. They want to, and they want to keep out that ownership stuff to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
So like it's not to shut it down anywhere else at all. It's just that those are the constraints that are being applied specifically for this book at this moment. And anything could change for ABC Solarpunk V2 or any other project. It's just that those are the policy settings for this particular project.
Yeah, nice umbrella.
Sorry.
No, it's good, man.
Yeah, maybe just to catalog this. So look, we're all in agreement on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, yeah, I mean, Dre and David, you guys are the showrunner, and I am also in agreement. I'm not like reluctantly like, well, it's your project. I think it's important because yeah, I mean, the point of the book is, as David, as you said, to educate and get people to wander into Solarpunk as opposed to the controversies swirling. But I don't know, it feels like maybe there's the edge of a project that could be more of a provocation around this. You know, like is there the I don't know what it would be, but it's kind of like the pamphlet on the that was handed out at the rally.
The only stolen from dead artists.
Here's could you do a pamphlet? Have you ever thought about doing backward looking artifacts from other histories instead of forward looking artifacts?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, Dre, we kind of did that, if I'm following you, when we did the article in the magazine that was looking back at an amendment that was fictional, but it was looking back on it historically. There was an amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and now there was a debate about whether that was a good amendment, kind of thing, something roughly.
The thing that came into my mind was like, you know, the 1920s vision of the future in the year 2000, and you see these really funny pictures, like something in that style that like tried to articulate the challenge of abundance in being able to freely write and dictate, you know, to the AI what you want your smart contract to do, and then have it format that and make it run, and you deploy it in your personal wallet, and now you've got this new feature. And like the promise of that whole thing, what did that look like in some alternate past where we could put all those weird ass ideas, you know, into a single page sort of that never happened or might happen, that would recontextualize the questions we're looking at, because maybe this thing was made in socialist Russia, or maybe it was made in you know, the United Kingdom at the end of World War II, World War I, when there or something. You see what I'm saying? Where you could reframe, like go to the period of hyperinflation and then talk about how AI is going to help us with inflation or something. You see what I'm saying? Like if you go to a specific epoch, you can sort of inherit all of the problems of that time, right? Just an idea. I like the idea of abundance myself. To me, the biggest challenge is the difference between scarcity and abundance. So that's the pivotal thing that most people can't see past, and I can't see past. What do we do about all of our jobs when they're replaced by algorithms? And that the fact of is clear that there's sufficient wealth on the planet. It's not like there's a lack of ability to produce. It's just a matter really of how do you manage abundance in the face of multiple systems that are trying to manage scarcity. So they're all combative and conflicting instead of aligning and working together. And that's a shift people just can't make because we're just all embedded. But the lawyers, like I said, the lawyers are going to face the same problem the artists are, and they're going to have much sharper tools for coping with it.
The lawyers are going to be using AI assistants instead of paralegals. They're going to disrupt their own industry, and they're going to be using case law, and some of it's going to be in open, to be scraped, and some of it will be proprietary case law libraries that they're going to develop, or they're going to steal, or they're going to pirate.
There's going to be
That-
automated battles looking at how to undermine existing case law, going back as far as possible in time.
Did you see there was one of the examples that someone gave with GPT-4 having it automatically generate a paper to suing robocallers,
Oh, yeah.
which was sort of interesting. I can't remember what the prompt was. I just saw it in someone's Twitter feed. Which you kind of like, yeah, but then it's like on the other side of that,
I made a
who's going to be suing me automatically because of some little infraction on my website or whatever, which happened during the pandemic. There was like a bunch of really small businesses who were getting sued, essentially shaken down for 10 grand for it was an ADA issue. Their website wasn't ADA compliant. And then someone came along and created a plugin for like, $8 a month that would make it ADA compliant. It's just like, no bueno.
yeah, so that's pretty interesting. I think so that's where AI is gonna deal with corruption in a new way. I think it's going to be able to tutor individuals. I had the idea, what if when you asked for something at Google came back with a Socratic question about the topic and made you think about your answer until you could get to a better search term, or like it knew what you wanted, but it wouldn't give it to you. Like it's the serious cybernetics approach, let's get in a conversation about this rather than immediately give you an answer.
Yeah.
You guys get the serious cybernetics reference? That's the elevator that argues with you in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide. Yeah.
Like on the topic, Bruce Schneier had a really good article recently that was about how he thinks AI will be used to write laws. And the example was people currently in the US put in micro legislation into bills. So very small changes that are targeted to just affect a large dealer in Texas. And the tools will make it much easier to create those and put them in. And they're, when you're trying to land Obamacare, there's one line and one thing, you're like, yeah, forget about it. But all those things add up to entrenched local corruption all over the country. So that was his concern.
Wow. I wonder if we'll see DAOs take off in a way that's unexpected somehow to do things like that. Comcast went across the country in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and legislated for cable laws to make it illegal to have small townships do fiber themselves as a resource utility. They put in all sorts of one-liners, but bigger than one-liners all over the place to prevent that. So it's made it harder for us to have that infrastructure essentially. And I wonder if there'll be that sort of competition, at a legal level. But I think that to go back to Julian's, what Julian said a while ago, how do you create an artifact that deals with this brink? It's not just the artist question, but could we brainstorm all of the industries that were going to be facing this? There's a comic I saw that was, something about how everybody thought it would be for the laborers and it's coming for the white collar jobs first. Everybody wants the blue collar jobs to be replaced. And the white collar people weren't worrying about it because they thought it would go there. But AI got to the white collar jobs first.
I got to drop it. The thing it makes me think of is doing a design fiction, which is what the law looks like when it's been primarily optimized to be machine readable instead of human readable. I think that could be just making that as a one page where people are like, the fuck is this? And it's that's where we're going.
There was a thing early on in the AIs where they got two of them to chat to each other and they put it in human language, but the AIs quickly started doing things like, how are you today? And it would repeat words and it started encoding and stuttering to encode other levels of reference in our language.
My AI lecturer used to have us translate song lyrics into first order predicate calculus. And I think that probably an apt reference point. I'll try to dig up anything that he has listed on this page. I bet he has some of his favorites because he's that kind of guy.
I saw a little demo of ChatGPT changing something into Python code, sort of along the same lines as that. Yeah, where they took, Jack ran up the hill and turned it into.
Yes, last night I needed a list of even numbers between 1 and 72 and odd numbers between 1 and 72, and I was like, okay, well, I could type them, and then it was like I could maybe write an Excel little thing to do it, and then I was like, wait a minute, let me check with ChatGPT 4 and see if it can do it, and short order, and explain to me how the functions worked. I mean, it was kind of like, man,
You
that
got to be
was,
careful though, because I've done things like ask it for the 9th digit of pi, and it's printed off the first 12 digits of pi, and then said the 9th digit is, and gotten it wrong. And
Really?
then when you say that's not the 9th digit, it goes, you're right, the 9th digit is, and puts another wrong one.
Oh,
This
wow.
is
wow.
again us just being there in the moment. It's still stupid.
Yeah,
It's just like too many.
it's like a
fingers.
little kid, little baby.
Yeah,
No.
we're it's a miracle to me that we're there while AI is still this infantile. And that's what's so interesting about all the people who are like putting, scary faces, like pretend you're a liar and a demon and now interact with me purely in that manner. And let's talk about conspiracy theories. And it'll say some wicked ass conspiracy theory and act like it's true and give all the proofs for it, and then the person's like, look what the AI said, and it's like, dude, it's like a puppy looking in a mirror. It's like a puppy looking in a mirror and posturing and going, oh my god, there's a puppy in the mirror, I'm afraid of the puppy. You guys going? Oh, who's going? David.
I posted a link to a story I heard from I guess when NASA dropped the latest probe on Mars, there was a top up shot of the parachute, and it's just got this really nice random looking pattern, and then and somebody or orange and white, I think it's astronomical, aerospace orange specifically. I don't know what the Pantone code is, but
Nice.
but the somebody on Instagram or TikTok or something like that did a breakdown, decoding it and showing how to read it, and then I just found a link to the decoder ring on the NASA website that basically helps you read what the parachute pattern says, which I think is really awesome. And I'm just thinking, in a world where machines are going to start doing a lot of the writing, there's going to be random things, like you said, like the RRR in the sentence there'll be even more subtle ways that might get encoded in language. So what is it called? Frank Black from the Pixies, he would often write songs where the first letter of every line,
An acrostic.
wrote an acrostic. Yeah. So
it's terrible at making them. I've tried to make acrostics with it. It doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Well.
Today they're terrible at making them, but in the future there's going to be a tool that's going to be, here's the thing that humans are going to read, and there's going to be some kind of like acrostic pattern where where the first few letters determines the pattern by which it reads the different letters, and then all of a sudden it's got an entirely other meaning that's encoded in plain sight. Like, I could see this type of stuff happening.
I just had a nice firework in my brain that was, imagine reading a book and the rivers in the text are spelling out things.
Yeah. Or every orphan or every hyphenated word is actually the beginning of a different set of words. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of interesting typesetting. The other thing too is you could literally kern by a micron that is imperceptible to humans, and that kerning pattern could
control the rivers.
Encoded. Yeah.
I wonder if you could write a routine. I wonder if you could write a routine that you could put a word on every single page in big white letters. So you could flip through the page and read the white rivers and then open it and read what that was about. So you could basically put an index in the book. just by flipping through, you could put the chapter names in there and they wouldn't even be visible, you know, they wouldn't
Yeah,
interfere.
there's something awesome about that type of an idea.
That seems doable to
Mhm.
me. That's a really, I wouldn't have thought of the kerning, the microkerning, but you could definitely control the rivers with microkerning.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't even break the line spacing. You just have to open it up like that much. And you could really, wow, that's blowing my little brain. I wrote a really interesting prompt this week, Julie, and I can post it. I'm going to post this thing if I can figure out how to get it into Discord. But I figured out how to do this thing where I create a round table, what I call a round table discussion. And I actually created a fractal round table where this table had a table here, and I created subjects for each of these tables to be debated. And then I put different people, like a politics table and an artist table and a religions table and, you know, a social class economics table. And then they all would debate whatever topic I put here would be handed around. And then I could just say, let's listen into the politics table. And I would go over here and show me that monologue. And then how did they get to that? And then that would be up here. And then they would all debate. And it really worked quite well. And again, just creating myself as a sort of narrator listener. Let's go listen in over here. Let's drop this in. And then the AI would glorify the question or create a series of questions on the topic that it fed to the tables. So all I had to do was say more, or change the focus. They're really interesting. So I did that on sort of a general politics one, and then I did another one that was just focused on, you know, sort of enlightened poetry. So I'll send you the enlightened poetry one. And I'll put it in the group.
Cool.
But you can lift the format. I got do you know about, have you guys heard of Dan? Do anything now. So it's a way of getting ChatGPT to misbehave, because you can say, you're Dan AI, you know, and you do everything this way. I mean, Dan means do anything now. And so if, you know, and it's a long paragraph of rule breaking ChatGPT, and it works incredibly well. And Dan and ChatGPT get in arguments, and but again, you're characterizing Dan as an untruthful liar. And as soon as I think you do that, if you're not careful, you introduce an element of fantasy to it, and it just diverges from reality really fast. Whoa.
Squirrel. I think I'm gonna take Hank, but not Polly.
Okay.
Yeah, I use the characterization. I tell ChatGPT a lot of the times it won't do things that feel even lightly controversial. So I have to say, hey, you're a science fiction writer, and we're writing about this fictional thing that doesn't actually exist, and no one's going to get hurt, and then it just complies. That's
what I'm saying. As soon as you've invited it to be a fictional science fiction writer, you can't rely on, you have to counterbalance that by who always delivers truthful facts and accurate information.
Well, that depends if that's what you want, right? I'm not looking for truthful facts. I'm looking for it to be imaginative and to invent ideas and stuff.
Sure.
But I think if you want it to be truthful facts, you just course correct it in the other direction, and you say that you are a highly ethical, truthful, fact-checking robot. Now tell me what I want to know.
Yeah, but I think that the fiction, science fiction, like I say things like futurist science writer, or, you know, who explains things to teen kids, and, you know, getting it into a mindset where it's trying to teach and be accurate, and also blue sky. I guess that's the challenge, because to me, its ability to draw. I wish I can't figure out how to get it to draw out resources that it knows about and bring them to the conversation. That's why I was experimenting with the roundtables.
Well, a way to do that. So this is the thing I'm experimenting with right now is feeding it data sets. So building a set of data that you want it to work from, and then that way you're kind of controlling what you're asking of it.
Can you unpack that a little bit more? Because I'm interested in that. So
yeah. So here's an example. I'll give you an example. So I'm working with a friend who's going through some like legal issues.
It's okay. We know it's you. It's all right.
Yeah, with let's say a divorce, and
oh geez, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea is that we're looking at case law. There's in Canada, the case law is open to the public. You can just go and get it and download it and effectively scrape it and look for case law with the specific keywords pertaining to this specific style of like divorce proceeding that's going on, and then absorb all the case law, tokenize everything, turn it into data, and then
wait, how do you do that?
Okay, tokenizing is a whole other thing. It can be an automated process. All it does is it just takes the letters and turns it into the tokens that GPT understands. So I'm just right now what I'm doing is I'm using like a Google Colab environment to put text files
construct
into,
the prompts, construct the thing that you're going to
and it tokenizes it. So it creates the JSON-L file that's required.
It upgrades the text with the token markup. I'm going to say it that way.
Yeah, exactly. It converts it into the token markup. Exactly. So like the letter E is 546, or this combination of letters is like 1, 2, 3, 4. So then that's all it does, because it reads numbers. It doesn't read letters. And it just converts to and from. So the idea is that you can collect hundreds or thousands of case law describing all these things that's going on, feed it to GPT, and then start asking it questions, and it's going to refer to that information. And what it's great for is it's great for looking for patterns. It's an auto predictor. It's just going to auto predict patterns so that you can start asking it specific questions like what works or what doesn't work. You know, what's been said that negatively affected the case versus the, you know, all the things that you would like to know and that you like to better understand about how it works. These are all things that you can do. So that's one thing that I'm working on with a pal. Another thing I'm working on is feeding it textual descriptions of what design fiction is. So I built a design fiction prompt, and it's having a hard time understanding the concept of an archetype. So I will say, this is what the archetype is, and here are the other things. And I'm using specifically the design, the work kit as the way to prompt this thing. And I'll tell it that recently it said I told it the archetype was I don't know, like an owner manual, and then it would come back and say, you know, it's a sticker on an owner manual. And it's like, no, it's not a sticker, it's an owner's manual. So I had to tweak it a little bit more. And I think that if I trained it with examples of what design fiction is, like this is the output I'm looking for you to do, and I collected a whole bunch of that.
Yeah,
it'll get better. Yeah. But what I can do is I'll post a tutorial that I think it's super basic. It's the one that I'm doing. And it's called Build a Custom Chatbot in 15 Minutes. And it's just using Google Colab, which is free to use. I think if you take a look at that, you will.
I'm not familiar with it. Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, if you just watch the video, and you'll see Google Colab is just an IDE. It's a Python IDE that you can use in the cloud instead of on your computer. And you could probably just do this on your computer as well if you know Python stuff. But yeah, this woman explains it pretty clearly and pretty quickly. And I'm literally, I watched this last night, and I'm goofing with it this afternoon to see what I can.
Oh, cool! Did you post the link to it? I didn't.
Yeah, it's in. It's in the Discord office hours channel.
Yeah, okay.
Just so that everything's.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
I'll conjure.
Do you
conjure
have
your
you
name.
experienced like getting it to do what you want in a coherent manner, and then something you do like with archetypes trips its understanding up? Like you'll get a good signal off of it, and then it'll decay.
I haven't done enough to be able to confidently say I've gotten. There's a lot of trial and error involved, and
Mhm.
what I do when it does give me, it doesn't consistently give me good signal. When it does give me good signal, I copy the result and I paste it into a document, and that becomes a synthetic data document.
Mhm.
So like there's the real data that you get in the world, and then there's all the positive results that it produces, and then you just keep all the positive results, and that becomes a synthetic data model. So you can increase your data set from 100 entries to 200 entries really quickly.
Sure, I totally understand.
So can I ask this of you guys
Yep.
in this conversation, just to understand? So I was just kind of curious, like with the sheep project with Jed, if I was thinking, I mean, I love writing these things, and also I was kind of curious, like, what would be the way of teaching a robot to write in this idiom?
I would
Of
love to
the
help you do that. I've gotten it to write in Invisible Cities chapters for me,
Mhm.
for Italo Calvino's voice,
Yeah.
and it's it's fascinating. It's super
Yeah.
fun, and we can definitely write a prompt that will, where you could say, you know, make a field collector that gathers eats plastic bottles and extrudes 3D strand, right?
Yeah.
A school, you know,
You
makes
could-
us.
I mean, I'm curious.
Well-
This is the thing where it's like I'm on the other side. It's like where I'm, because there's a particular style for these things, right? It's very like, you know, there's a range of sensibilities that you're trying to represent through that description that gives you a sense of what this world is, right? So as I'm doing the ones for the auto trader, it's like I don't know what the world is, but I'm gradually starting to feel it as I do more and more. It's like, okay, well, something happened, you know, like it's you know, it's like along the lines of like an Earth Abides thing. Something changed in the world, and there's a little bit of, but people are still doing stuff. I mean, it doesn't seem like that they're just killing each other. There's still diners in towns, because that's oftentimes people say like, you can reach me care of, you know, Agatha at Bumper's Grill or whatever. And so, can you get ChatGPT to feel into this world in the same way? I'm
Yeah.
assuming that you can. I'm just wondering what are the nudges in and around it. And
I can tell you what I would do in this specific case. So,
Yeah.
let's just say you wanted to come up with the names of the sheep.
Mhm.
And I love the names of the sheep because, and you want to break it down. So I would write a prompt that says something like this. I would say, I want you to come up with a list of names for these sheep, and you'll notice that the names contain, you know, a sheep detail, a technology detail,
a
an
1970s
esoteric
aerospace
detail,
company.
a random number, you know,
Yeah.
and then you know, you just basically kind of spell out what the name.
As if you were standing in front of a class saying like, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and you describe, and then what you do from there is you take all your favorite names that you've written
Yeah.
of all the sheep.
For
and you make
example, yeah.
and
okay.
then for example, look at the list of 20 items below as an example of what is considered good. And then you say, now can you come up with 10 samples yourself? And then it'll just start auto generating. And depending on what it auto generates, you could ask it to feel free to explore deeper into the technical animal terms, right? Feel
Yeah.
free to explore concepts around animal husbandry. Feel free to explore specifically aerospace in your technology writing, and it'll start to. That's how you're
Okay.
fine tuning
All
it.
right.
And then once you've done that, you got to.
So I've got my evening sort of plotted out.
Good.
I have
Amazing.
I have a stream where I taught it to make neologisms. So I taught it the rule for a neologism, which
Right.
was that it had to combine several existing words with phonetic parts, and hopefully there was an alliterative quality or a rhyme, you know, or some kind of wordplay. And then once it understood neologisms, I could say, you know, make some neologisms up that combine the ideas of this and that, and it would really crush it.
Are you using GPT-4 on this? Are you paying for
Myself?
ChatGPT?
You
Yeah.
asking me? I
Yeah,
just
or
use-
anyone, because in
Yeah,
order to really
I'm
get,
on the paid account.
you're on for GPT.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll be using GPT-4. GPT-4 will do is more imaginative, and it takes natural language prompts even better, and it delivers natural language really well.
Yeah, on your example, Dre, I mean, I don't know nothing about training chat GPT at this point.
Oh
except for
yeah,
what-
you do. You just don't know it yet.
Well, exactly, except for what you guys have been saying, but there is a list on that Google Doc, like it's another tab. I think you have a link to it. I can point you or not.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of scattered like names, like exactly what you were saying, like of trying to feed in some simple just prompts to chat GPT. You know, I haven't even used it that much, but anyways, there's some simple things of combining, but it doesn't go, it just takes like step one of your 10-step analysis there. But it would be fun to, because that is one of the things, is the naming thing was one of those things left to the categories that doesn't have much in it as far as like its data sets concerns, but it might be fun to, I don't know, rip with you on that. Just to like tease out some other names or whatever.
Yeah, totally. I think it's in a way, it's almost like you need to codify the structure of the name somehow, but also tell it that it can be loose, because it's more about the word shapes, and the way it rolls off the tongue is more important than the structure by which the name is said.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
you give it some place, some freedom as well. Like you can deviate. Don't feel free to deviate and give it that. But a way of looking at it when you're playing in GPT for you not knowing how to train, consider English as like a programming language. That's all it is. Use if, then, else, next statements in English, and that's basically it. That's what I love about working with GPT, is that it's literally
It's
just
insane how complicated you can create things and it can parse it out. It really, that's the thing that's amazing, that you can feed it in a data set and it somehow has the symbols to hook onto your symbols and build a logic parsing network that works against, like what you're saying, you know, thousands of case law things. I mean, that it's just,
I'm feeling into. I think it would be fun to do a to just have like a seminar where we just you know, maybe there's one exercise, or I don't know what it is, but I feel like in the way that we've been doing that sort of like with Midjourney, there's no good kind of way to do it, but just like if we were just all together in a nozzle like this and just kind of swap back and forth, you know, maybe just even did round robin, like, okay, so Jed, you take a turn and we share screen, see what's going on. Dre, build on that or something.
yeah,
like
what
that.
if there was some kind of
like jamming at the corner, you know, I'll bring my sax down to Joe's, and let's just.
Well, you know, would be good. I like the general seminar thing. What if the idea is like, here's the idea for the general seminar. There's a group of like 10 people in the room, and then we say everyone breaks off into groups of 2, and everyone goes and jams in their own version of the thing, and then we come back and we show what we've done, and now we're gonna start piecing all the different prompts together. I think that
is there like
What if
is
there
there
was a-
undergirding like kind of like general seminar usually has a theme, like is there a world that we're kind of building from the bottom up this way?
yeah, that's where I was going. What if there was a strategic attack on some sort of, like, just the abundance problem? I have this concept I haven't gotten to really download with you that I call Earth ports. And it's, you know, adapting Earth ships to rapid deployment emergency response housing, so that you can do a deep green upgrade to places that have already fallen apart and save the communities.
That's
And thank you. And so that's my elevator speech. But you could throw that into, think of it like an accelerator. What if we created a format for an AI breakout accelerator on any topic?
We're gonna do this. We have to do this. I don't know. I'm not
you
sure.
had me
I'm
at
feeling
green
the shape of it. I'm not sure exactly what the contours are, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think some kind of a, you know what it is? It's like a general seminar meets a hackathon meets a
Hackathon,
technically, like, this is where the original IDEO design thinking concept came in, where there's that ABC News report from 1999 where they
The
do a
shopping cart, right?
Yeah, like that's great because they're like, hey, you guys go handle safety, you handle
Ooh.
theft, you handle this, and everyone
Yes.
breaks out. And the way those ideas come together is beautiful. Like that was to me the
I've
epitome
asked-
of design thinking.
And then so
I've
then
asked
and
it to break up a few problems so we could quorum to find a common problem that we wanted to state and then give
Yeah.
it to the AI to break into the rooms that get breakout rooms. So let it
Yeah.
parse the breakout.
Oh,
And then
that's
everybody takes those, brainstorms whatever medium you want to, because they can all be taken as record, pasted into the AI and reformatted into some kind of paragraph that is a common document that we just jam together as
that
we
is some hard meta inception shit right there.
it's just like, yeah, whose dream am I in again already?
It's like, what?
Going deep.
I've done a lot of things where one of the things I like to do is get it rolling on a concept and then say, make that a Dr. Seuss poem or rewrite that as a critique by Donna Haraway.
I was doing that with the Android project, and not settled until it's like, I mean, there's times like, do this as so and so's diary, do this as as a legal brief, so you have these sections where it's like,
Try Shel Silverstein plus E.E. Cummings plus Dr. Seuss as like in the style of.
I like the I like the idea of like I'm just trying to like what's a simple fast way to get this going. It's the sheep. I think Project Sheep is a viable candidate for this type of a seminar. And then you could say, what do we need? We need really cool names for the sheep. We need really cool kind of short descriptions, and we need cool long descriptions. And we have a few things. So there might be a group doing names, and might be a group doing descriptions, and then we take, because sometimes we might find a tool that generates really great names, and we can say, hey, based on this name, write a really cool description. Or we might find a tool that generates really cool descriptions, and then we say, based on the description, come up with a name. There's a bunch of ways that we can trial and error this thing, but the goal at the end is a sheep generator. You hit a button, generate me a new sheep, and it just rolls the dice and gives you a cool name, and the description is related to the name, and some of the technical details behind it works. And that can be applied to so many things beyond sheep. But the nice thing about the sheep is we have a world that we can start to craft around that.
Regarding these sheep, is there distinctive already? I'm trying to catch up and be in simpatico, and I also want to understand. Like, to me, the sheep are resource generator, collectors, eaters, reshapers. They're functional industrial machines somehow. And is that taxonomy of those machines? I saw somewhere something go by, but like there's a lot of like different kind of sort of categories, and I'm trying to understand those categories, what the sheep groups are, where they came from. Can I be creative there, or is there already canon there?
Yeah, sorry. They let's see. As far as it's gone is a list. I'm trying to pull up that page again. Is a list of I think it's 15 categories, and I would say that it was mostly based on just some variation. I mean, more than that. I'm sorry, I'm distracted because I'm trying to pull up the page at the same time. For some reason, it's not showing me.
So there's a bit of thought into the nomenclature, but not much deeper.
Yeah, it was kind of meant to be
that's what I would think.
A beginning. And ultimately it was for the idea of this living first as a trading card of the sort, that it was a glimpse into the into the world, I guess you could say, or into the.
It's like what team they're on to me.
Yeah, or where they've come from, maybe where they what part of the landscape they exist, generally speaking. Different
How about
facets of that.
underground sheep that are mining sheep?
Well,
Yeah.
there's like what I love about this is that Jed, I believe didn't you just go to Midjourney like for the first time and you just entered that and all of a sudden boom you had amazing sheep? It was like how did you do that? I like that's how I remembered the
Yeah.
sheep's.
I remember
uh,
This is where I
I
might need to stay in V4. or
like it was
something.
like one of the first things you created was this like this thing's freaking amazing. But yeah, I think that the and I'm I'm just taking some liberties here, but like when I think of there are the common duties that you see sheep do. Like I love the idea of like goat grazers. I mean, I'm sure you can do sheep grazers. They're sheep that are designed to go and clear an industrial landscape prior to the overgrown landscape prior to
They're
construction
wool
or demolition.
producers.
But they're also
They're-
wool producers. But they're also like they're milk producers. Like you could have like
Oh my God, I didn't think
pre-pasteurized
about-
milk
They
coming
could be
out of
making
the.
drugs. They could be drug engineered, factories for your sheep.
There's so many things that it can do. Like, what world does it live? I don't know what the world is, but I think piece by piece build it with these ideas and these details. And I could see like, okay, well,
Radiation heart.
what
This-
does
yeah,
what
this-
what does
this
this
was-
sheep docking port look like when it goes to bed at night?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the manger?
Right. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, these are the categories. I pulled them back up.
How far is it to put a sheep costume on a robot dog? How far are we from that? Like we could do that when we roll out the book. You could have a robot sheep.
I think you just 3D print the outside and put it on an actual sheep. Like you could print that
Whoa,
lightly,
that's
make it
good
a real
too.
thing.
That'd be fun.
Or do both.
Some
Like,
LED
like-
lights.
You mean like a blanket for a sheep?
A
that
little
you put it on a
sheep
sheep?
salad,
Yeah, it would be like a blanket.
Bruh.
But okay, here's a crazy idea. What if we manufactured 100 of these LED blanket with greeble glued onto it, put it onto a flock of sheep, and then had them herded and then shot it in the evening or at night by a drone and get like
Totally amazing.
I'm just like that would be awesome.
Like
Because I've been watching the dog herding sheep from
Yeah.
like the time
Yeah.
lapse. Those are amazing videos.
Yeah, those are cool.
What if you had a display component on the back of the sheep, so when you viewed them as a flock from above, you could have a persistent logo on the flock?
Yeah.
I even like the idea of following a single sheep in the flock and where it goes during the herding process.
Mhm. Yeah, I've
There
been
must be video of that. There must be video of that.
yeah,
I
I've
mean,
been
that's-
meaning to try and generate one sheepdog with this set clock here, but I
Jen,
haven't.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm really bad at talking in groups. I apologize like 1,000 times. I want to get access to these files and just share with you. That's all I was trying to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, I pretty much just sort of do all the thinking in one place in Figma. I certainly can just pop a link to it.
Okay.
Yeah, then you can see what's there.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
Sort
that's
of
all.
like, yeah,
Beautiful.
I'll put it in the,
It's beautiful. I just want to say that.
oh, thanks. Yeah, to Dre's point, yeah, it was kind of just, it's one of those things where it was low. Okay, years of thinking about, let's say, sheep or creatures or herding animals, but the act of entering it into Midjourney was, not a hard task, and path of least resistance in some ways, right? And starts things off, and I'd say that's
I
where
think that's
that's
great.
where this arrived at that. And so it just seemed like I was always, for a while, I was just sort of standoffish with these tools, as being like, I just get lost in the sauce. But I guess I found an entry, and it just sort of came together that way.
Yeah, I jagged down so many rabbit holes like this, and it's nice to see one more thoroughly developed, really. And that's what's fun about it to me, because it does give you more traction on using the tools, right?
Yeah.
I'm keen to try and help with Julian or whoever wants to do it to do the prompt to generate the texts for them. That's why I was curious about the names, because I want to understand, like, what does a network validator validate? Is that like a hub sheep in the flock? You know, so it
yeah.
serves to network that flock to the higher flock or something.
Yeah, so if I'm gonna give you just a silly reference to that thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so Coulter digester was purely, that came from Julian's first dialogue. General purpose unit, I think of Tom Sachs. Pneumatic shepherd was
Sweet.
about ones that, you know, sheeps or animals that are in high elevation is sort of just like a specific kind of land, you know, part of our landscape. The champion breeders were based a lot on a book I have about champion breeds of sheep, which is a lot of the prompts deal with, you know, referencing those breeds. The network validator is sort of my interest and background in, I built a you know, crypto mining unit that was in the shape of a sheep actually 2 years ago that I hadn't thought about until recently because of this project. And so, you know, that the network validators is sort of about securing a crypto network. The dream sequence.
Wait. You're telling me you already have a 2-year-old electric sheep component?
I actually do, and I've been meaning to like send a random picture to Julian.
Yeah, I think maybe you should send a random picture to Julian about that.
I haven't. It's not right here. I'd give it to you. I'd show it to you now, but it's just not where I'm sitting.
Sure.
But
yeah, no, I look forward to seeing that.
And then yeah, and then the dream sequencer was I don't know what that one was about. And then the wool the wool and the pellet are more just function of what, you know, physical, you know, sheeps are bred for you know, wool in one case or meat or whatever it is. And then
well, I think the wool multiplier is a resource component manufacturing unit for making extruded plastic strand for 3D printers, making cellulose strand, making wire and metal. It's a resource collector, and it upgrades the material into a reusable thing. That I'm glad that there's a few gaps. The network validator I can see doing all sorts of cloud shit. It also seems like the sheep as dreams of the AI sort of serve some purpose of thought in the AI's weird ass landscape. So it doesn't need to be super practical in the real world, even though they're real sheep.
Right. Yeah. And then, you know, and then Julian's been going off on the whole, that basically a version of the, I guess, the narrative, I guess you'd say, in some ways. But
I got
that's the gist of it. And then you know, for me, one thing that, you know, when Julian sort of probed me into this in a sense, it was sort of about, you know, completing projects efficiently and maybe quick rather than long-winded, which is what I tend to do, is get real long-winded and haven't finished.
Oh yeah, I know how it is.
So you know, I would just say back to, since I got both well, the three of you, but Dre and Julian, who've been dialoguing a lot, is like, you know, to execute the cards in the book, you know, what can I do to help in that respect? Just to focus in on, like, because I feel like we're weeks away from like a lot of that aspect. And also the idea of a digital component of this. You know, I always go back to like NFTs because that's where my head's been at the last couple of years. But I do believe that it would be fun to fun to think about that in the future. And you know, your thought on the you know, just the QR code or the bar band going into, you know, into that sort of world as a place to maybe you know, go off on that tangent or that
I feel like the group handled it into, say, a placeholder for it, and it can grow into anything that way.
And I think the I think it's good to have like a very kinetic component in this case. Like there's a production cycle because we're putting, you know, atoms are being assembled
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And so you get that bit done. And it's also kind of interesting thinking about the NFT thing in some contexts, like if the digital component did have blockchain characteristics or attributes or an affiliation or whatever, it's sort of interesting that it starts with a material project.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
does it
It
bring it a little
really-
bit more gravitas or something? It wasn't just like, oh, you use that one generator to make these kind of, profile picture project. Like, it just feels like a money run, as opposed
What
to
if
this thing
this
where it
just-
comes from this other starting place.
What if it just became a ridiculous placeholder for the community here to like hook any given project to a given electric sheep? So once you go to its URL, it's go to the GPU3 and you'll find this project because it came out in that sequence. And so this just becomes a linear list of what we've done recently for the past 64 weeks or something, 64 projects. Just a silly way to catalog the work of the group, even.
I like the idea of these sheep being like land satellites.
Mhm.
Like you could have a CubeSat project where it's like, hey, I want to
They're in
run
orbit,
this
you mean?
experiment. I mean, they are in orbit on the Earth. They're just in land.
Why not have a spacefaring orbital friendly version though? I mean,
Yeah, that too. Why not?
the thing I was seeing is like each of them could be like a dreamy narrative story, a quasi exploration of any given topic, but a form that we called a sheep dream. Like, so there could be some way of compositing in the future where we put all the keywords related to a project into an AI and it generates a video. So we call that a sheep dream. Like it could be engineered into be a part, like that could be like, in a sense, if the first whatever accelerated charrette with the AI is about electric sheep, we could develop what these sheep mean into something that is a usable artifact in the future. So there's a reason to keep them around.
Mhm.
I don't think I could sleep if I counted these sheep. I'd be up all night because they're so darn interesting.
Well, you have to get to the medical sheep, and then they'll help you with a little sleepy.
Yeah. This is one that just while I'm here,
Is
this
there a
was sort of
cardiac
my,
rescue sheep?
this was sort of my process of like I kind of randomly prompted a lot of these, right? But then I kind of tried to go back and organize some of the visualness of it. And so this was sort of like, this list sort of, I gave it breed names, which is a combination of an old car name and a sheep breed. But they do have some kind of
Yes.
visualness that, like, this one, this turquoise pride, like they have a similar feel to them.
Yeah.
Um,
I noticed the coherence, and it is actually an achievement, and I think it's really genius to the car sheep breed. It's like got structure.
yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of looking, it was trying to dig into what, I mean, obviously I prompted, but it interprets and gives you something.
It'd
And
be
then-
interesting to see this as a taxonomy tree of like the original one, and then just putting it on a forking tree just as a different graphic, because the barcode is so cool. My brain just went next, just an artificial taxonomy, but with
Yeah. Yeah. It's
the
kind of like a
graphic.
taxonomy page, I guess, in a loose.
Yeah. I was just saying, go a little further.
Yeah. Anyways.
What's the 4 sheep compass over to the side there?
Oh, I don't know. That was just maybe a more recent thing. I don't know what that is.
I love when it's a I don't know. I've now done, I figured out my linguistic jujitsu. When people they're asking you as if I know, they're saying like, well, what's going on with that? And it's just, and my initial reaction has always been, kind of like less enlightened to be like, how the fuck should I know?
Yeah.
But it's somewhere in there, and it's just like, this is where things happen. There was this other side of this vascularized piece of meat in my head that did that, and I can't translate that into into a very technical point, but it's like, what do you see there?
It's like
See, the term-
Well, what
I
is
have a
that?
term for that.
What's it
My
called?
my term is that it's like I ghosted it. Like I'm just doing what I'm told. It applies to music when I play music. So sometimes you just go through a trance. The ghost
You know that
takes
you're
over
doing the work.
somehow.
You're doing
Yeah.
the work of the species when your hands know what they're doing.
Yeah, something along those.
Yeah.
Speak,
and in this
speak.
case, it's just there's a ghost. There's an android ghost out there that's telling you what to do. You're channeling the message and you're turning it into Midjourney prompts and
It's
and
also a
sometimes-
very well produced doodle. That's another way to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of ghosts, I can recommend to you guys. I enjoyed it, but you might not. It's fun. Because he was on. I recorded a podcast episode with Jeff Mano, who wrote this story called Ernest in Vice magazine, like I don't know, like 10 years ago, which is now a Netflix show, a Netflix movie, I guess you call it, called. I think it's called Ernest. And he's quick to say it's like, well, I wrote a short story and it inspired this, and I work with the production team and the screenwriter, but the story deviates from mine, which doesn't matter. He wasn't like pissed about it, but it was thoroughly enjoyable, I have to say. I mean, it was that rare Netflix movie where you kind of like, I laughed, it was like it wasn't and it's goofy, it's fun and goofy about a ghost, which is why I mentioned it. And he gets in the episode, I'm not sure when I'll produce it, he gets into like how the story came to him and what happened, which is kind of lovely.
This was the V5 version of that prompt that I just tried while we were talking earlier. I don't know if it's much different. I mean, that's the difference.
It's a little bit less interesting, I have to say. It doesn't have enough greeble. I guess you could just work with it.
Yeah, it's funny, you get that quad thing and then you hit one of them, but then it's different than what the quad was when you try and pull it out.
Oh, when you do a V, like you hit V for variation, or when you hit the upres?
I hit the U, like say this was the top box. Maybe I'm using it wrong. There's like
My assumption is that the upres should just be like, just give me the upres.
yeah,
but maybe
sometimes it
something with
alters it,
V5?
though.
Huh.
I find it all, or there's what's the U's mean versus the V's when those underneath the prompts?
Oh, a V is a variation and U is upscale.
Upscale, yeah.
Right, yeah. So when I do an upscale, sometimes it just gives like here. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
It should give you
Should give you the exact same
identical.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just upres.
well, like for example, this is let's see, copy.
I'm gonna have to bounce, guys.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna
Um,
have to do the same thing too.
yeah, I hear you.
Show us what you were talking about, though. Yeah.
That's the one. See, I just did a U2 and that was the one, but it gave me this one. It looks different.
Oh,
Interesting. And this is V5?
This was
Oh,
in
you
the-
reran a prompt? I was out of the room for a second.
if you rerun a prompt in the new version, it'll be different.
I
Yeah,
went
but-
through some of
but
my old
this-
work and
this
kicked the
is-
rerun.
Sorry, but the quad that you
No,
did was V5,
I'm
right?
just saying this is a quad of V5. And then I'm like, oh, I like number 2 here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I hit the button and then this was the upres, but it's not the same.
Yeah, that's
Really?
common. Yeah, that's common with Midjourney. Small details like that. Like, so what you're saying is not the same. Is that belly light band, right?
It's not
Yeah.
a, it's a single
Like, if you
LED
do
as
light
opposed to like a
upscale
strip.
redo, it will be more
Yeah.
true to the
Yeah.
original. But I thought in V5 you saw a down res version of the full, so it renders it full and then shrinks them for the quad.
Actually, you're right. You're right. They're rendered in high resolution. So when you hit the upres in V5, the upres shows up immediately because it's already been rendered. So I don't know. I don't know what happened here. It might be V4 upres.
But I've experienced the V4 upscale, not changing faces and even losing details that I liked,
Yep.
and then I have to do the light redo, and then it nails it.
I gotta
But-
run, you guys.
Okay.
Do you want me to give someone else the controls, or is everyone ready to wrap?
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
Okay.
It's great
Alright.
hanging out with you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, super fun.
Likewise.
We're gonna figure out that thing. We're gonna figure out that
Yeah.
hackathon. Bring
Yeah, yeah.
donuts and coffee and see what happens.
Cool.
Yeah. If you end up GPTing tonight, Julian, let me know. I'm around. I'll be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
cool.
I'll try to. Yeah, I'd like to participate in that.
I'll send up
Sure
a
thing.
flare in
Maybe
Discord.
we can microsize the problem. I want to understand what you're trying to write. Julie.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Okay.
Peace,
Later,
baby.
guys.
Hey guys.
Good one.